Hey, it's Drybear. Back again with another Diablo 4 build guide, and today we're going to be talking about my Bullet Storm Rogue, focusing primarily on spending with rapid fire, insane amounts of arrows coming out, and then utilizing all the cool passives that Arrow Storm has. So if you're sick of seeing twisting blades everywhere, you've come to the right place. And yes, I know they're arrows, bullet sounds cooler, stop harshing my vibes. But first, you should come hang out with me on my live stream. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/Drybear. If you don't come hang out with me in the community on Twitch, the next time you put something in the oven and set a timer, you're gonna come down and check it when the timer's done. But it's gonna need at least 1 or 2 more minutes, which isn't long enough for you to leave and go get invested in another activity. You kind of just have to sit and linger and helicopter until it's ready. All right, let's dive into the guide. The full build down below is in the description if you want to follow along. There's some really cool synergies here that I'm very excited about. There's actually a different style of pure focus on rapid fire that I do want to make. So if I don't post that soon, be sure to remind me on Twitch and I'd be happy to make it because it's bouncing around in my head and I need to get it out. As we always do, we'll start with the builder at the top of the tree, work our way down and talk about all the synergies and things that you need to have in the build and why there's wackiness going on over here with multiple imbuements. So we'll start here. You actually have a choice between Forceful Arrow and Heartseeker. In my eyes, Forceful Arrow works with Barrage better, and Heartseeker works with Rapid Fire better. Just kind of the pacing and the function, but there's also some bonuses here. Heartseeker gives increased crit chance, which we like a lot. It also gains attack speed, which is huge for things like Rapid Fire, where you want to just keep spamming. Heartseeker also increases crit damage against the enemy, so that works really well for that scaling. We're gonna come down here and we're gonna pick the 2 required passes for Rogue for any hard content: close damage reduction and healing when you crit. It's hard to, honestly, I've tried to move these 2 passives out of any Rogue build and I have yet to be successful in doing so. I feel like you have to sacrifice 1 or 2 extra legendaries to make up for this because it's just so dang good and so dang free, so it's hard to argue against. Max out Rapid Fire is going to be your primary energy spender. You're going to be doing things when you trigger specific procs, but your main spender is going to be Rapid Fire, and actually with Imbuement, it does quite a lot of damage. We're going to come down here and go into the defensive tree and get absolutely nothing. There is a variant here. I have to make this caveat. Because Twisting Blades with Shadow Step or Dash is so incredibly good right now, you could just swap Rapid Fire out of here. But I wanted to make a Rapid Fire build, and I think this fits with it perfectly. So we're going to run with nothing here. You also could run Caltrops with Chill, because we have bonus procs when we hit targets that are chilled. This actually could have really strong value. It's just, it's already a pretty tight build with no room for modification, at least in my eyes. We come down here to the other required Rogue points. I don't think you can run a Rogue build endgame right now without Dark Shroud. Your only real choice is whether you're going to get crit chance or movement speed. I think for this build, because you're trying to play at range and reposition and set traps, movement speed makes a lot more sense. You also want to pick up damage to injured enemies and damage to vulnerable enemies. These are also super free. We're going to be running with Poison Trap. This is one of the most flexible abilities in the kit. It works in most builds for Rogue because it does incredible damage, and we have some nice procs from it as well. And it knocks down, which will trigger stagger on bosses and will also just kind of keep you alive when you do big AoEs. We're going to come down here and we're going to pick up damage. Imbued skills grant crit strike chance. And our primary imbue skill for this is going to be Poison Imbuement. And I know what you're saying, Drybear, what the heck are you talking about? Why is it that we have 6 skills here that only use Poison Imbuement, but then listed on here, you have all 3 imbuements? That is because we're going to be running with a unique that is actually exceptionally unique. It's super fun. And that is the Word of Hakan Amulet. This unique, once you finally unlock it, has crit chance for imbue skills. It increases the rank of imbue skills, gives you ultimate skill damage, which is nice, but it also makes it so your ultimate Rain of Arrows is always imbued with all imbuements at once. And as we know with Diablo 4, if you have a free proc of something, it will always inherit the points you've put into it. So even though we don't put these on our bar, it will make our ultimate Rain of Arrows trigger Cold Imbuement, Poison Imbuement, and Shadow Imbuement. Our Poison Imbuement is maxed out, so incredible damage. It's also going to get crit chance against injured. It's going to cause vulnerable and explode. It's going to cause chill and then chance to make vulnerable. It's also going to cause damage against crowd controlled targets. If they get frozen, it's even more. There's crazy synergies here, and we have crazy ways to reset it as well. So that's all super fun and super nice. We're primarily going to be using Poison Imbuement for rapid fire, and then we'll be using the extra imbuements for Rain of Arrows when we proc it. Special mention here, you can use Shadow Crash or Consuming Shadows if you need the energy. Anytime you run Shadow Imbuement, it's worth considering whether you want to run Consuming Shadows. It gives you a buttload of energy. I would say if this was more like focused on only rapid fire, you probably would want to run a double imbuement with Poison and Shadow, and then run full Consuming Shadows to keep your energy up. You can also run Frigid Finesse. You deal increased damage to chilled targets, and the bonus is increased. We have ways to apply chill with this, and we have another item that's going to give us chill permanently, which just gives us some damage bonus as well. So we have that. We're going to come down here. We're going to pick up Rain of Arrows. This is a very Archer style skill, and I love having this in the build. Then we're going to modify our Prime Rain of Arrows to imbuement skill effects applied by arrows of Rain of Arrows have 20% increased potency. Because of our unique, it's going to be all 3 of them, so all of them are scaled up. Rain of Arrows second wave knocks down enemies, more stagger for bosses, more CC and survivability for mobbing as well. We also want lucky hit chance to gain energy, and when you spend energy, you increase your lucky hit chance. Since we have so many lucky hit procs, if you don't have any lucky hit bonus on your gear, you could probably move some points around to try and pick up more lucky hit chance here. This will end up being maybe like a % or 2 more global proc chance by getting more points in that, which is actually over time very valuable. Then key passive wise, we're going to run with Precision. Crits with marksman skills grant you precision. We're going to crit a lot with rapid fire. It has also, rapid fire has increased crit chance for every arrow that's fired. So as we keep firing, we get more and more crit. These crits will stack up our precision key passive, which will give us more crit damage. And then when we reach max precision, your next marksman skill, rapid fire, will get guaranteed crit strike and 40% increased damage, and then consume all of these as well. Your Rain of Arrows is also a marksman skill, so you can use the build up for rapid fire to get a guaranteed precision full stack, then drop Rain of Arrows, which will drop all the imbuements, and you'll just watch Rain of Arrows wipe the screen. It does multiple waves. It applies all of these elements. They'll start exploding from Shadow Imbuement. They'll get poisoned. They'll get all kinds of other bonuses. It's nuts, and it's super fun to watch. One thing I forgot to mention as well, increased poison damage, and poison damage have damage reduction, poison enemies. We also like getting attack speed as well, which works great for rapid fire. And again, you could probably put more points in here if you wanted to lose some other things over here, but I think this one fits the best. So that is the skill tree for the Bullet Rain, Bullet Storm build, where you're just kind of dropping everything. You're going to be doing tons and tons of damage. It's all about positioning. Now let's talk about the gear and passives that make this really, really shine. So coming over here, we're going to pick up the Preparation Specialization. Every 100 energy you spend reduces your ultimate skills cooldown by 4 seconds. So this is base 60 seconds. We reduce it by 4 every time we spend 100 energy. When you have good energy gen and you're spamming with rapid fire over and over and over and over, you get this constantly. And then when you proc your ultimate, when you spawn Rain of Arrows, it's going to reset all of your cooldowns, which in this case is going to be your Poison Trap and your Poison Imbuement. You can actually get to a point where Poison Imbuement is up for almost every single rapid fire, and that poison stacking is going to keep stacking up and up and up and up, and the crit strikes increase the poison damage. All of that fits really well together, and I think it feels really good too. For gems, is the 2 best combos right now, especially for squishy classes. Crit strike damage with vulnerable on Emerald for weapon, and for armor, damage reduction while crowd controlled. As of right now, unless you have a lot of unstoppable in the build, for high level Nightmare Dungeons, you do get CC'd, especially as a rogue. If you get CC'd, you're gonna die. So this helps out a lot with that. And then since we're sitting at range for most of the time, we're running with increased resistance to elements. For this, because it's a very squishy rogue build, I like running all 3 of the popular defensive legendaries. These 3 should show up in some form in almost every build unless they get nerfed. They're just that good. And that is Aspect of Might, damage reduction on basic skills, Aspect of Disobedience, armor when you deal damage, and then Aspect of Protector, it grants you a barrier every 30 seconds. All of this works really well and it keeps you alive, and they fit in literally every build. So I like running these in some builds that are a little bit squishier than others. The other unique that we want to run here, and I know uniques are harder to get, but I like having them in here, is Penitent Greaves. When you walk around, you'll just have this ice patch under your feet that it's almost like you're a slug. You just have this trail behind you. Enemies that touch that trail are instantly chilled, and you deal increased damage to chilled enemies, which is nice because we have tons of procs for dealing damage to chilled enemies. We also chill with this here, and we have more damage to chilled enemies. which we're going to guarantee with our boots. So all of that works nicely together as well. Blast Trapper's aspect is awesome. Dealing direct damage to enemies affected by your trap skills makes a chance for them to become vulnerable. Remember, when we put down Poison Trap, it affects a large area. When we pop Rain of Arrows because of preparation, it's going to reset Poison Trap. So we can Poison Trap, Shadow, or Poison Imbuement, spam, reset Rain of Arrows, pop Rain of Arrows, new Poison Trap, and cycle back and forth over and over. In this build, I also like running Aspect of Arrow Storms. When you have any amount of lucky hit, this one can actually hit pretty hard, especially if you put it on amulet or weapon. This one has a chance to spawn an arrow storm, and when you're hitting so frequently with dotting poison and then rapid fire hitting frequently, heart seeking hitting frequently, you can actually proc this pretty often, and you can actually have up to 5 arrow storms rolling at once, which is actually really cool to watch, and it fits with the rain of arrows that feels really good too. I also like Aspect of Bursting Venoms. I played with this legendary a little bit, but I didn't get a chance to try it in difficult, like really difficult content. So I'm curious how this is going to work, if you're going to be able to stand in it. What this one does is lucky hit critical strikes with poison imbued skills, which should be your rapid fire most of the time, have a chance to create a toxic pool under the target that deals poison damage over 3 seconds to enemies within. If you go and stand in that pool, poison imbuement has no cooldown and no charge limit. The only question I have for this is if you'll be able to stand in this in High Nightmare. It's possible that you won't, so you might want to swap this out. You could get Expectant or other damage scalers here that would work really well with this build, but I wanted to have it in here just to inspire you and get the juices flowing on what you could use. You could even run the Barrier passive, where when you take damage, it pops an immune barrier, and then you can drop the pool inside of it, stand in it, and fire it out. It's possible this one just kind of falls to the wayside, but I wanted to make sure it was on your radar. Aspect of Repeating is nice. Rapid Fire is a chance to ricochet to another target. We also get procs off of Rapid Fire, so this makes that a little bit easier. And then the next two are my favorite here, Icy Alchemist's Aspect and Toxic Alchemist Aspect. What do these do? Icy Alchemist Aspect makes it when you damage a chilled or frozen enemy, which we get from our boots, and we get from our Rain of Arrows, which will always chill and freeze. Damaging a chilled or frozen enemy with a Shadow Build skill, which Rain of Arrows is both at all times, has a 75% chance to release an explosion that deals cold damage to the target and surrounding enemies, applying more chill. If you think about this, your ultimate should trigger this every time, because it's 2 waves of multiple arrows that hit multiple times. They are also simultaneously Shadow Imbued, Poison Imbued, and Cold Imbued, which means that it's going to be doing both of these at once. Then as you do Rain of Arrows, they're going to explode and do more damage, more chilling, which gives us more bonus damage as well. Toxic Alchemist Aspect means lucky hit, damaging a poisoned enemy with a Shadow Imbued skill. Again, Rain of Arrows does both. Has a 70% chance to create a toxic explosion that applies poisoning damage over 5 seconds to the target and surrounding enemies. So your primary core is setting up, using Poison Trap, popping your Poison Imbuement, using Dark Shroud to stay alive, building with Heartseeker to get procs, spending with Rapid Fire, and then when you're ready, drop Rain of Arrows and watch the whole screen explode, reset, and go again. Super fun. That is the skill tree and the gear and skills. And then I did a first pass on a Paragon. This one is not, I wouldn't call this super optimized, but I wanted to make sure that if you wanted to use this build, I didn't leave you alone with no Paragon at all. This has good synergy. It fits the build. It has the right boards, but I would want to spend more time tweaking it to make it work, make it super optimized. But it is a first pass, something you can use and rely on if you want to have some Paragon available that can really fit with it. So quick overview for this. I like the Bane glyph for this, poison damage, and then damage. Poison damage has a chance to deal double damage over the duration, which is really good. We like picking up things like Crit Strike damage. Crit Strike scales super well into endgame. It's one of your best stats. You can also get damage affected by trap skills, but also more importantly, I like getting damage reduction from enemies affected by trap skills. So when you have that trap down, we love free damage reduction. That's super nice. The Ranger glyph is great. Marksman skills deal increased damage, and while wielding a ranged weapon, you take reduced damage. So while your bow is out, which is all the time, you have no cutthroat skills or melee skills, you'll have 10% damage reduction, more defense, and then your Heartseeker, your Rain of Arrows, and your Rapid Fire all deal increased damage, which is super cool. We're going to pick up ultimate skills, deal increased damage, and grant you increased damage for all your other skills as well, for your poison and your traps. The tracker glyph is good here, poison damage, and poison damage effects last longer. This isn't taking the same damage lasting longer, it just adds more ticks to the poison, which makes it more valuable. And again, we have damage scaling against targets that are poisoned, so more uptime means we can stack it higher and we get that bonus for longer. Legendary node here, you can probably hold on to this for a good while. This one is great for late game as well because it gives 20% resistance and 20% increased damage for imbuement element for 6 seconds. Since we have rain of arrows, it's going to apply all 3. That means you get cold resistance, poison resistance, and shadow resistance, plus a damage for all of those as well. This one just fits. And I think lastly, you want to pick up efficacy. It increases ranges, nodes in range, but primarily increases imbuement skills by 20%. Super cool. So that is the Bullet Storm build. Arrows flying every which way, explosions going off, all kinds of elements. Super fun to play, and I can't wait to push it all the way until the final boss and test its limits to see how it goes. But hopefully, at the very least, this inspired you to either try this build or try something similar and learn a little about the game in the process. Come hang out with me on my live stream. If you have any questions or comments or you want to theory craft, I'd be happy to chat with you. I'll see you there. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.